Hello, and welcome to Revenue Marketing Television. I'm your host, Jeff Pedowitz, President and CEO of the Pedowitz Group. Today, I have my good friend and Chief Marketing Officer of Fuze, Brian Kardon. Brian, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jeff. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
No problem. So, you've been in this game a long time. What is some of the biggest changes you're seeing over the last couple of years in marketing?
A couple things are changing. I think people's comfort with data is changing. So, 10 years ago, it was very much about creativity and running campaigns, and now it's all about measurement and optimizing. I think time frames are a lot shorter in marketing. So I think it was the end of the quarter, we'd look at all of our data. I'm seeing more real-time analysis of campaign optimization, of SEM optimization. People are always changing messages, calls to action. I'm seeing a lot more A/B testing going on with websites. And I'm also seeing no absolutes. Like for a while, it was all only inbound or only outbound or only account-based. I'm seeing marketers are getting much more fluent in the full vocabulary, of marketing and not just doing a few things. So I was talking to Mike Volpe the other day. We were just talking about him. He went from HubSpot, it was all inbound and high velocity marketing.
Yeah.
And marketing produced about 80 or 90% of the leads. And now he's at a company, CyberReason, where he's doing account-based things. So there's no high velocity, it's high touch. So he's mailing things out, like $80 things to get appointments. And so he's understanding that, yes, exactly right. So it's a very different language for him now. And I'm starting to see this more and more with marketers understanding that we have a very rich palette of tools. And you don't always bring your toolkit, with 4 tools to a job where you need 100 tools or different tools. So people bring a playbook, and sometimes the playbook isn't applicable to their particular case. You got to be much more flexible.
Do you think it's harder to be a marketer today than it was 3 to 5 years ago?
Yeah, I do. I think that people have very high expectations now of marketing, and it's gone up quite a bit. So yeah, the expectations are high. When I joined the company I'm at right now, we had no marketing stack. We had 3 people in the marketing team, and I had a very large sales team that was very impatient. And so it took me a good, 6-8 months to build it all out, get it all working together. You do this every day, and it's not something you can snap your fingers and it works. Particularly if you want to collaborate with the sales team and talk about what tools and what business rules you're going to use and what's an MQL and what's an SAL, and let's agree on the service levels. So there's a lot of work that has to happen. So I think people are very impatient of getting results very quickly. And sometimes I tell my team, you have to go slow to go fast. So building a strong foundation, going slowly and doing it right allows you to scale. But some people, and you probably see this every day, they build a foundation very quickly and it's not well configured. And the house collapses.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So you talked a little bit about what your team's doing now, and the skills. What are you looking for, I guess, in people that you're hiring into your organization today, and how are you starting to structure your teams maybe a little bit differently to take advantage of this new mindset?
So, marketing increasingly is becoming an area of specialization, a lot of specialists. And so it can be very challenging to think about people's career progression. So what I look for in a marketing team is, number one, people who have technical skills, but also are very good collaborators. It's definitely a team sport here. In the past, I've had some people in marketing who are extremely strong individual contributors, but they really create a lot of friction in the marketing team. So I really want people who can work very, very well together, who express gratitude, help, they get out of their swim lanes and help everybody get stuff done. So I care a lot about that. What I'm finding is that I have to create an environment where people learn a lot about marketing here. And so I'm starting to give people opportunities to go to conferences, so you go to Serious Decisions, or you can go to this meeting or meet other people. People want to be certified in Eloqua or Marketo or something. People want the opportunity to go to other regions. So I have a team in Europe, and a couple of those people want to spend some time in the US, so I'm doing a rotation program. So I found that I have to do lots of those kinds of things to create an environment where people are continuously learning, they're developing their skills, and they view this as really a great place to stay and build their careers.
So are you increasing your budget allocation towards education?
Yes, quite a bit. So I have a pool of money for education, and I leave it up to each person on the team to come up with their own plan about what they want to do. And some people overspend, some people underspend, but I'm looking for people who are aggressive and always want to learn. You and I sort of shared this idea that, when we started our marketing careers, there were none of these technologies here. And so to stay fresh and current, we had to learn new things every day. And I think that's true of all marketers. And so there are new tools all the time, and there's new ways of thinking and new ways of measuring. And so keeping everyone's skills current is a big deal. So I have a lot more money allocated towards education and training.
That's great. So what about some of the processes? Are they changing too? Because you mentioned, we talked a little bit about Volpe, and obviously that's a different process if you're doing account-based marketing versus top of the funnel demand generation. But what are some of the other processes that you find you're focusing more time on today?
So one is we've created a demand center, and so we want to have sort of the center of excellence. And so whether it's in Europe or Asia Pacific, we have one team that builds the campaigns, that does the landing pages, the calls to action, and handles all that. So I want my people doing the field to be much more strategic and working with the sales team and not be worried about execution. So I've tried to centralize things to allow us to scale better. And that's sort of one process that I put in here. I think in other companies, I've had a more decentralized approach. We're in a fairly regulated industry, and I want to make sure that we have a lot of control over our brand, our copyrights, our messages, and what's working, what isn't, a lot of the measurement. So that's sort of one area for process. And then the other area that we're doing a lot more is exactly what we're doing today, Jeff. And so my team is traveling less, and we're using tools like Skype. We actually have our own tool at Fuze that is video messaging and collaboration. And so we do a lot more of this. And so the team gets together all the time.
Thank you for letting me use Skype today. I appreciate that.
So yeah, Microsoft Skype is one of our biggest competitors, actually. And it's mostly a free product, and so we charge at the enterprise level. But we love competing against Microsoft. It's kind of fun. But so we do a lot more of this. And so we're trying to reduce sort of the travel, but we want people to spend a lot of time together. And we find that these kinds of tools work really, really well. So those are two examples of process. Less physical travel, much more digital communication through video in particular. And sometimes video is on all day, with team members. People use Google Hangouts or other things, so you can collaborate continuously during the day. It's very easy to use. And then this idea of a demand center, having things that scale more, and then buying our media centrally for the world and running our campaigns centrally for the world.
So I guess one big conversation today is what's your stack look like, right? So in your demand center, what's in your MarTech stack?
So we have about 30 technologies. I'd say the area that's a little bit different than others is we have a very robust sales enablement stack. So we're using Savo for sales enablement. We just brought this product on called Crayon that's in the early stages, does competitive intelligence. My product marketing team has to stay on top of all these competitors like Microsoft, Cisco, Avaya, 8x8, RingCentral, and there are just too many competitors. And I found that the Google and Moz alerts were not accurate enough. They were just too crude. They were coming in too late. So we have a whole bunch of new tools around sales enablement, which is very important. And then we have a lot of data tools. So, a hot area is this whole idea of predictive analytics. So we're using several different predictive analytics tools and data tools. One of the biggest challenges we have is getting accurate data, particularly in different regions of the world. So a good example is employee counts. To route leads properly, I have to know how many employees there are at a company, because our insight team handles companies with less than 350 employees, and then our field team handles 350 or more. And so we looked at the Dun & Bradstreet data, and it was very inaccurate. And then we started crawling through LinkedIn, and that was much more accurate, except for certain industries. You and I think that LinkedIn's very accurate because we're in these kinds of industries, but for like healthcare, nurses are not on there.
Yeah.
Airlines, pilots and flight attendants aren't on there. Manufacturing, people who are blue-collar labor unions aren't on there. And so LinkedIn, despite a lot of bias, you understand this, can be very inaccurate with employee counts in certain industries. So we found the data thing to be very, very challenging. There's lots of promise from the data providers, and we find that it's just a lot of hard work to find just the right vendors.
Yeah, we've had to use a multitude of tools. I mean, I think at best you get 50-60% accuracy if you went across every industry. But
Right.
I agree with you. I think we've seen some of those same challenges, but the problem gets bigger all the time. I mean, this whole data thing is something that everyone I think is trying to get their hands on top of.
One of the attributes that we find is very predictive for our business is people who sign leases to move. So when you sign a lease to move, chances are you want to change out your PBX and your communication system. So we've actually found some vendors who have very good information on moving. And before you move, you contact the moving company months ahead. There's a corporate move, and then there's some local things that you have to file. You have to notify like Comcast, Verizon, a few of their telco providers way ahead. So some of those people actually do provide information on office moves. So we're finding it's very specific about getting the data,
So it's
and
kind
it
of
varies
like
by country.
it's like a business welcome wagon, basically.
Yes, like
So,
this is welcome, right?
so tell me about you talked a little bit about account-based marketing in terms of the customer approach and lifecycle engagement. How are you starting to change the marketing mix? Because I know a lot of marketers I talk to focus a lot on top of the funnel, but you see more now about the bow tie and trying to get more ongoing customer engagement. What are you doing at Fuze?
So we're spending a lot more of our efforts in 2017 on customer marketing, which we didn't spend much time on. And it's not just the upsell, cross-sell, and nurturing existing customers, but it's deployment as well. So we're doing like deployment parties. So when you start using our product, we're doing marketing inside of companies to help the HR and the IT departments evangelize products within the company, get people to feel really good about it. So we're having these welcome parties, we're having welcome kits, and we're putting a lot of things in our product itself to encourage people fully utilizing the product. You talked about things like Eloqua and Marketo. Like most marketers are using a fraction of what's there, and so that's true of our software as well. So we're putting in a lot of sort of notifications and opportunities for people to try out features that they hadn't tried before. And so these are all sort of automated using intelligence, understanding your history of what you use, what you haven't. So we believe that people, and we've seen it historically, people that are fully utilizing the product, use it more, are much more likely to renew and talk about it a lot more. So it's both a software sort of thing that we're doing to get people to use it more, these sort of welcome parties, and then we're doing a lot of customer satisfaction work to understand what the challenges are. Very often we thought it was product. We lump everything into product deficiencies, but in fact it could be about support, how it was deployed, people know how to do something. So we're trying to understand where are the challenges with product usage and product ease of use and so on.
So, I mean, within your product set, does it allow the opportunity for a cross-sell, upsell?
Yeah, we have that quite a bit. So, for example, someone could be using voice, and then we have a chance to upsell them on video conferencing or audio bridge. Or in many cases, we're selling into their office in Brazil, and we have a chance to sell to Argentina and to England and to France. So we have geographic upsell as well, other divisions, lots of opportunity for that. Yeah.
So what are you being measured on as a CMO, and then what are you measuring your team on?
So we're measured very much on sourced and influenced pipeline. So internally, we are looking at MQLs and SALs and cost per MQL, conversion rates, and also days between stage. But the biggest number that I produce that the board sees is how much of the pipeline is sourced and influenced by marketing. So the sourcing is using sort of first touch. Did we run a campaign that got someone new into the pipeline? And then the influence, is there an opportunity that we touch somewhere along the way? And our sales leadership has come to me and said, I love that you're sourcing deals. How can you help me accelerate deals? And I love that question because it really uses up a lot of creativity, and marketers don't often think about that, how we can help. But I love that. And so we're doing a lot of programs now to help accelerate deals. For example, the sales team is only talking to one or two decision makers. And so we have a chance to digitally to run ads in LinkedIn or to do campaigns against other decision makers in the database. So we do that. We might do a champion building event in Atlanta. We might take people out to a ball game or do a round table. We might make introductions to other CIOs in their region. So we have a pretty large menu now of things to accelerate deals and influence more deals to make them happen faster, which is really interesting for me.
Oh, that's great. So how often do you meet with sales?
Our global head of sales is 10 feet away from me, so I meet with him frequently during the day. We have these AVPs running regions, so we have a North American head and a European head and an Asia Pacific head. So I meet with them continuously all the time. There are weekly forecast calls that marketing participates in. I'd say at this company more than anywhere else, and I know it's a cliche, I talk to sales all the time. And I'll give you an example of something that I've never had happen before. So we've identified target accounts in different regions. And we've said that each rep ought to have 200 target accounts. So in some regions, we actually have a lot more than that. Other regions, we have less. And so we're actually helping sales identify where they should put the next rep, what city. And so prior to us doing all this analysis, the sales leadership would use tribal knowledge or intuition. Hey, put somebody in Atlanta, put someone in Nashville, we need someone in Denver. But now we can look at the map and say, we have 10,000 accounts in New York City, but we only have 5 reps. That's crazy. We can handle another 12 reps there. Or we're ready at 20 reps in London, but we don't have enough in Munich or Frankfurt. So I've never seen an organization where the sales team, actually, sales leadership asks marketing, where should I put my next rep? Or do I have reps in certain cities and I can move them, where would you move them? So it's a great example of marketing and sales being so close together, because so often where you put a rep was solely in the silo of sales, and we're very active in helping sales decide where to put the reps.
I love that. That's great advice. So we're out of time for today, but as always, my friend, I can keep talking to you forever, but thank you so much for giving us your time today. And I really appreciate it. So thank you, Brian.
My pleasure, Jeff. Thank you.
You bet.